Thank you again for this meeting. You mentioned in your book on page 8 that although the experience spans your experience is primarily between television and your recruitment entertainment, that the mindset and the checklist of the recruitment process is basically the same. So what does that foundation, that recruitment process do? Tell us about that.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. Okay. Yes. Well, thank you for having me. And I would absolutely say it is universal in terms what I meant by that is that the process that it takes to evaluate folks around whether they're skilled or not is pretty much universal. It doesn't matter if you work for a tech company, entertainment, where I came from a cable, to the fashion world. The foundation that we utilize to evaluate folks are virtually the same. It may look different. You may have a resume in corporate. You may have a portfolio on the creative world. You may have a reel if you're, more in different industries. Whatever that may be, you're going to be evaluated on whether you know your stuff, how well you package your stuff, how you're packaging your own brilliance, whether it's working at Prada or Puma. Let's say you are looking for a merchandising assistant job. They are going to say, does this person know about seasonal planning, trend forecasting, and all the other fashion skill sets that you need to have? And again, how are you packaging it? Is your resume clear, concise, so forth? And how are you showing up? So especially the fashion industry in particular, where it's not necessarily built for us in mind, which I'm sure you probably see on magazines, TV, and all the other platforms that fashion comes in. But guess what? And the door may not swing open as easily, but when it does swing open, are you ready to walk through like you know your stuff? And again, you have packaged your entire portfolio, whatever that may look like, in the right way. You've researched the company and or the brand. You know what their style is. You know all the things that make sense for you, and how can you be an asset to that particular brand, company, role, title, things of that nature. So that's a long-winded answer for, it doesn't matter what industry you're coming from. You're going to be evaluated, and are you prepared for that evaluation? Are you going to show up and, as they say, show out?
And so, going off of that, how does a recruiter rate a resume? And what are some of those things that challenge in the resume?
Exactly. Again, it really comes to one, clarity. Is it clear, concise? Is it showcasing all of the highlights, your accomplishments, your skill sets off the bat? Statistically, statistically, it has been proven that recruiters literally have 8 to 10 seconds that they take to skim through resumes. And I know that's probably alarming to folks. It's like, wait a minute, that's all you guys take. For the most part, depending on what company, what brand you're coming into, they're flooded with resumes. Unless you're going to like a mom and pop shop where they have less recognition, less brand recognition, and less volume of applicants, they're not going to get as many. So it may be a deeper dive for the recruiter. But for someone like myself, I can only use myself as an example. I worked at Paramount, where our brands were MTV, BET, VH1, Nickelodeon, CBS, Paramount. I mean, like those are household names. So one job can yield us over 300, 500 resumes, and that's on the lower end. I'm being real. So how can your resume show up as the most competitive candidate, or the crop, when we say the creme de la creme? Because when you are applying for major brands, they do have the pick of the litter. All of the top candidates are coming to them. So you should be able to articulate clearly your message around what you're looking for, what skills that you already have acquired and can truly be an asset to that brand and company. Also, impact. Can you show if not numerically, and measure your impact in terms of what you brought to the table, then showcase some of your accomplishment. What type of impact did you leave? So even if there were three people with the same title, and you guys were operating at the same time, what differentiated you from that person next to you with the same title, the same background, the same skills? What did you do differently and show up on the job doing that maybe the other folks didn't? So that's really important when it comes to resumes. Ultimately, your resume cannot showcase everything and tell a full picture and the full story. But because of the fact that it's the first thing that people see, and again, I'm saying resume because I work in corporate, but it could look differently depending on what industry you work in. It may not be a resume. It could be, examples of your styles or portfolio or a reel and so forth. So just look at it that way. So when I'm saying resume, because
And that is the resume.
yeah,
It's just in a different format.
different format, exactly. So yeah, those are the key things that I could think of off the bat without literally going down to the finite details.
Okay.
But of course,
Let's see y'all into.
exactly. But even as simple as grammatical errors on an email or your resume, that'll automatically take you out of the box. So also don't be generic about it. You will easily get passed over if you're generic and not showing your story, so to speak. That comes in the form of either like a cover letter or an initial screen or interview. Have your elevator pitch ready, so to speak.
Talking about that, Coach, how important is that company? And what is an example?
Yes.
Give the whole.
Exactly.
But something on, because you mentioned something I've never heard anybody say about telling your story.
Yeah.
On that cover note.
Yeah.
So elaborate on that.
I think that more so comes into play because cover letters aren't typically required these days. But if you have a inconsistency in your background or career, and or you're just pivoting into a new career, it can help tell the story of how you ended up where you are now, or why you're looking to pivot into this new field. If you had a break in your work history, it can explain, I had to take care of my mother for the last 2 years, or a family member, or I had a medical issue or other issues. So it allows you to have another leg to tell the story that your resume can't for you. Same thing with like LinkedIn or other platforms that we utilize professionally to showcase our story. It's more of an interactive form of your professional digital footprint, so to speak, because now we're in the world of digital everything.
Yeah.
So it's not just your resume. There's so many parts of this. It's just the tip of the iceberg of how you show up professionally.
Thank you for this. Let's talk about digital.
Yeah.
Does anybody watch the Equalizing or Puma TV? Anybody watch that?
Yeah.
Did you see the episode where her daughter Delilah had applied for college and she didn't get accepted? And so she contacted, smart girl, she contacted the college to find out, what happened, why didn't she get accepted? They didn't give her an answer, but they did share with her the digital footprint on social media. They do look at that, and that it showed that she had been listed. So let's talk about digital footprint.
Yeah.
How I'm gonna let you take it from here.
So that's huge. That's it's very impactful. Social media can either attract to your brand or detract from the brand. One post, one comment can derail your entire career. That is the reality of it. I personally, as a recruiter, when I was in-house, I wasn't out here scouting your social media profiles. I was looking at your resume, seeing if you lined up with the position and so forth, and you had skill sets. However, I can't say the same for some of my hiring managers, the people that are actually hiring you into their department. I'm the recruiter, and I help them fill the positions and refer them to the hiring managers. Again, that looks very different depending on what industry you're in. However, I always say this: if you have to question whether or not you should post it, say it, comment about it, probably err on the side of caution and don't post it. If you know that it could potentially come back to bite you, If it's discoverable, even if you have a private page, everything is able to be screenshot nowadays. People can forward it. Even if you deleted something where you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that or posted that, people can screenshot it and forward it. So always just err on the side of caution. Perception is reality. How do you want your story to be told? Are you going to allow other people to tell your story and create that narrative for you, or will you do it yourself and showcase yourself in the best light? So you can utilize social media for your professional as well. A lot of people think that, well, social media, that's not really connected to my professional being. But no, nowadays it's absolutely tied and it's literally integrated into your professional brand. So think about the things that you can do to utilize social media to uplift, leverage your skill sets, and showcase all the amazing things that you're currently doing. Whether you're a stylist, how are you showing up online as well as your resume to promote the fact that you are a subject matter expert in X field, industry, or so forth? So there's so many ways that you can utilize it to your advantage, whether you're a writer, the list goes on. But I think within that particular story too, you mentioned that she had asked about like benefits and salary initially.
That's another, okay, yes, let's go into that question.
Yeah.
That was, well, no, let's wait on that.
Okay.
That was, yeah, we're gonna come to that question. One of the things that Debbie shares in her book, I want to just say, I'm not promoting her because she's my son. I'm promoting her because she didn't even know I had this book. I forgot this book. We'll talk about it later. But I'm so glad I got it because I got it and I was literally able to read. I think, and I'm a slow reader because I study when I'm reading. I got like highlights all throughout this book. And the thing about it was it's very straightforward, it's very authentic. I immediately said then when asked to have a career they want because the people that make this information. So thank you for writing this book. But in this book, and for those who want to purchase some, she'll have it available today at the room. It's an expensive book, but this can definitely help you in your career. In the book, you talk about, you share tips. In this book, you share tips on how you can get recruiters to knock your door down with a perfect resume. Share one of those tips.
Well, I think it kind of goes back to, I think we might have skipped, but definitely clarity. Making sure that your resume is clear. It is not also formatting wise. A lot of these systems now utilize AI to review your resume, even at times before a recruiter lays eyes on it. So you want to make sure that your resume is what they say ATS friendly, applicant tracking system friendly, as well as AI friendly. So making sure that you have keywords that what they say optimizes your resume in the right light. And how can you do that? Easily pull from the job description of the position that you're applying for. Obviously, I don't want you to make things up if you haven't actually done them. But if your resume doesn't actually say it in that manner, maybe you can utilize some of their wording to attract them as well, because you're actually using the same words and you've done it, but you may not have worded it that way. So it's simply as that. Formatting wise, I know that we're in 2025 and resumes have changed and evolved over the years. But the more straightforward ones are the ones that you want to submit to a platform. You can bring all your flowery borders and prints when you're actually meeting the person in person. Yeah, when you're meeting the interviewer in person. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of these platforms, they can't read or parse through that information properly, and it'll show up as like symbols and things of that nature where it may detract from the resume and it's not clear, concise, and they may be missing information where it'll come up as gibberish because we have all those crazy borders or prints and things of that nature. So just use a more straightforward format, and when you are invited into the room for a face-to-face, if you are not having like a video call, you can present that more creative resume, so to speak.
And so say you've gotten the opportunity, you've gotten an invitation for it. How can they ace the interview versus they say should not do?
Yeah, yeah. I think
And let me go back. I'm sorry. And that is the question. So let me preface it. So if any of you heard Emma, if you're familiar with Emma Gray this week, hope I'm saying her name correctly. She's taking some slack right now because she mentioned that when people come into an interview with her and they ask about work-life balance, that kind of offends her. She kind of like, I'm not going to use her word. So what should they, how can they ace the interview and what should they not talk about?
yeah. I mean, I think in that particular instance, I don't know why that would offend anybody. Like, you should be asking. Well, I always say, yes, I'm the interviewer, but you should be empowering yourself to ask the hard questions to the employers and the recruiters that are actually asking you questions. Because number one, you want to know if I even want to work here. Like, does this even align with my values, my skill sets? Do they value my voice? Am I going to have some sort of stake in the ground in this place? So you should also be asking them the hard questions. The way you can phrase it and maybe not lead with, hey, so what are your benefits or what's your salary? In the first question is, at the end of the interview, you can ask some of those soft questions or follow up with an email with those questions. I had such a great interview, based on what we talked about. This definitely aligns with me. I'm very interested and look forward to a positive next step. Would also love to know, just to manage my expectations, what is blah, blah, blah. So you may not necessarily lead with it in your first question, because what she's trying to say is they don't want you to sound as though you're just here for the benefits or you're just here to slack or whatever, but you're actually here for the job. You're excited about it. You want to do the job willingly, and you're here for the brand as well, not just to get a paycheck. We all know we got to pay our bills. So at the end of the day, we're applying for that. But we should also be applying because we actually are interested in the company. So that goes back to how you can ace the job. Make sure that you're doing the research on the company. Find out, who works there. See if you can get like a little virtual coffee chat with the person. LinkedIn is a great avenue for connecting folks to different companies, like where they work, and reaching out to them and actually asking them, like, how's your experience working with this company? Really, some people love to talk about what they do and their experience. So usually you won't get a lot of pushback around that. And
what should they not do?
oh yes, never talk bad about your former employer. No. Even if you had the worst experience, the reason why I say that is because every challenge, every obstacle that you face, you look at it as this was an opportunity to showcase how I'm resilient, I am strong, I overcame it by utilizing my communication skills or my collaboration skills, things of that nature. So you can frame it as, this is what I learned from that particular experience. What I learned is that I don't necessarily like to be in an environment where I'm micromanaged, versus my past employer was a micromanager, and I don't like to be feeling as if someone's always watching over my back. So it's all about words and how you frame that conversation with someone. But it just doesn't look good in general if you're talking about your former employers in a negative way, because they're going to think about, well, one, is she professional? Is she professional? And so forth. Also, I would say not being prepared with questions. Even if you feel like I gave everything you could possibly think of about the information, you don't know it all. So if you leave my office or virtually and have no questions, to me, that means I'm interpreting that as he or she knows everything, and they don't need to ask questions. They can do this job tomorrow with their eyes closed. And there's nothing else for them to know. So there's gotta be something. Utilize their questions that they ask you and build on those with more questions, and or be prepared with questions from the job description. So that's just low to the hanging fruit. Use the job description to develop your own questions.
That's good. So, as we're wrapping up, I have to ask this question. We already touched on it. Y'all know we have to pay our bills. So when we talk about salary negotiations, so how should a person who is just starting out in a new career, who might not have a resume that shows they have skills in the area they're applying, and or a person, say, who has experience, but it's not related to the job they're applying for. Say they leave here today and they decide they're gonna go apply for that fashion job that they want. They're switching careers
Okay.
now. How should those two instances, how should they approach negotiation?
Well, I mean, if you're pivoting careers, most likely you are now going to be more of a junior person versus other people that are applying for that particular job. So realistically, you have to come with the mindset knowing that there's going to be some things that you're giving up to get the things that you want. So there's going to be some pros and cons. So the question is really, before you even get to that stage, have you figured out and asked yourself the questions? One, am I able to take a pay cut if I need to go into this new career? Two, do I need to pick up some new skill sets, education wise, whether it's a certificate, whether it's another degree? And three, are you able to have the resources around you and the support around you to facilitate that potential salary cut that you may have? But if you're in an island by yourself and you need to pay your bills, that may not be the time frame for you to do a pivot because you can't afford it because you literally have to pay your bills. So it really is being able to realistically decide what you can give up versus what you can't realistically. And then when it comes to salary negotiations, I always say have those conversations up front. Personally, for me, I always ask, even in the initial screening, what are your salary requirements? And now we're in, well, this is more corporate. We're in a world now where pay transparency, there's actually a law, Pay Transparency Act, where most employers should be, not in all states. It's coming more and more where more states are actually enacting that act, where you have to display what the salary requirement, what the salary range is for that particular job. So usually there's no surprises. So if you apply for the job, I'm assuming that you're okay with the salary. But I always double check based on the job description that you saw. Are you within the salary range or you're good within the salary range? Because we don't want to get to the end of the interview process. And now I say, it's like, I want to take someone to the prom. And now they say, no, wait a minute. I thought we had this discussion up front. So I just like to mitigate issues from the jump. So what are your salary requirements? And sometimes people don't feel as comfortable saying it because they think that either going to lowball themselves or they're going to ask for too much. With this new pay transparency, those issues are mitigated because you already know up front. But for those industries or roles that don't include that information, you can simply say, I am ideally looking for X range. However, I am comfortable with a minimum of so that you're not taking yourself completely out. And at the same time, usually when you're upfront with what your salary requirements are, I can say to you, well, that's actually outside of our range. However, how flexible are you? Can you go to this? So then we can at least have those conversations up front and you can know whether or not you're either going to move forward with additional conversations and that was time, you know.
And thank you. That's going to be my next question about that comfort level of saying.
Yeah.
So as we're getting ready to wrap up with our final question, for anybody who has questions that you want to submit on your sheet, let's try to see how it works. Your insert, for anybody just coming in, on your insert, you do have the option to scan the Slido code, or you can actually go to Slido and you can actually enter that code and you can submit questions to me and I will see them right here. With that said, Davis, we're closing out with this question. Anybody, and matter of fact, when you do that, you can go ahead and submit those questions. I see my phone right now, so I'll just charge it. We'll see how this works. Final thoughts. You know, now you get the job. What do you do to keep it? So, you know, we talk about social media. I've heard of people, losing their jobs because of social media. So what do we, and now I'm hearing, it's out there in the world, so I'm not discriminating on age or anything like that, but we're hearing in the media that there's a certain generation that are getting hired, but then they're getting fired. So what tips do you give for, and food for thought, you know, rather than some final, keeping the job?
Yeah.
I think number one is to value the job, show your value. The way that you sold yourself to get into the job. I want you to maintain that by being consistent with the words that you said and actually turn them into action. Are you showing up on time? Are you adding value in meetings and conversations and through input that you have day to day? How impactful are you being? Are you being an asset to the company versus the opposite? Also taking initiative, doing more than what's expected of you. It's very easy to just take a job and just put your head down and just do what you're told, per se. But again, you stand out more when they see, wow, she's actually bringing ideas to the table. She's doing more here. She's doing more than was expected of them. Being creative, being innovative, streamlining the process. Maybe you've seen some inefficiencies that are not working. Raise your hand and say, well, if you guys are open to it, I would love to make a recommendation. So don't feel as if you have to stay in your place, so to speak. You also want to be mindful of not trying to rip down the door when you walk in either, where they feel as though you're trying to change the culture and all of that stuff. But be empowered to know that they hired you for a reason. So showcase, all those reasons why they should keep you in that position. And just at the end of the day, play nice in the playground with each other in terms of not offending folks, being collaborative, being a team-oriented player. And that again goes across all industries. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're working in fashion and you're the backstabber out of the person, or you're the gossiper, or you're the person that's stealing someone's work and showcasing it as your own, guess what? Now you're going to have a reputation. And we all know how these industries are extremely small, even though they're big. And your name will always precede you as you walk into the door. So don't be that person. Don't step on someone else's crown to get yours shining. We can all be in the same space together and uplift each other. Be your sister's keeper or your brother's keeper, and make sure that we're elevating each other, especially in this industry where it's not many of our faces in that industry in fashion. So it would make sense that you would look out for your folks to make sure that we're all shining and we're all showing up and putting our best foot forward.
Okay, thank you for the questions that have come in. We're open the floor now for questions. You can submit the questions via Slide. We're going to take about 10 minutes for those questions. But first, thank you. Thank you very, very much. So I told you it was very straightforward, very transparent, very easy to understand.
And I actually started this book as an ebook. It was just supposed to be a little quick, online thing you download, $10. And then people kept asking me, is this going to be available as paperback? I was like, this is so overwhelming. Oh my God. But I got a publisher.
You have the information, it has come forward.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that's
yeah. I wanted it to be an easy read.
It is.
Because I didn't want it to be this formulaic kind of thing where it's just oh my God, I'm reading chapters and chapters. I just wanted it to be impactful. 12 strategies where you could actually employ today. After you read this book, you're going to start doing what you need to do to get to that next place. I like simple, easy, and straightforward. And I received it. Number one, it has to be impactful, and I can actually act on it, not with all these fluffy words and things. And it's now well, how do I go about doing that? No, I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do.
And thank you for that, because a lot of times when people speak, they speak over your head.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially, not saying we're very intelligent people, but our culture is a little different.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I wanted to apply from entry-level folks to seasoned folks that need a refresher or they haven't been in the workforce in a while and they're re-entering. They're wait a minute, what I did to apply for a job 10 years ago, I can't do anymore, or 15 years ago. It's a completely different market out there now. So just wanted it to be simple and easy.
So this question is, what is your advice to junior applicants to gain work experience?
Okay. I always say this, but I speak a lot to entry-level folks as well. Don't wait for the dream job to start doing your dream job. Start doing the things that you love on your own, whether it's your volunteering, you're creating your own content, your interior designer or your stylist. Start styling your family, start styling your friends, start posting what you're styling. And amazing, we are in a world and an age now where everything that you do can be showcased to not just a small group of people, but to the world because we have the internet, because we have social media. So don't wait for the pie in the sky job to do the pie in the sky things. Showcase your abilities. How did Issa Rae get to HBO? It started this little old web series on YouTube that started gaining traction. And all of a sudden, the big boys started coming knocking at her door. She didn't have to go and pitch them her story. So think about that in your lane, whatever lane that is for you, start doing the thing. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like I'll even use myself as an example. I am not a content creator. I'm a human resources professional that started in corporate and media and entertainment. And since I moved on from my corporate job, I'm now like this entrepreneur. So I am a subject matter expert in what I do, but I'm not a subject matter expert in business. So I'm learning all the things and I'm doing all the things. And I'm like, I just got to do it. I just got to put out a video. I may not have the perfect background. I may not have the perfect audio, but when are we going to do it? Why are we waiting until tomorrow? Just like, wear the outfit. What are we waiting for? Why does the outfit have to be for an occasion? I am the occasion. You are the occasion.
Come on, girl. Yes. Yes.
Just start.
Now, in most creative industries, they say it's who you know, being hired quickly or they hire in-house. What tips can you give someone to stand out?
I love that question, and it's so, so important. And yes, a lot of these industries, especially fashion, it's who you know. Who am I connected with? So, what do you think your next thing should be? Are you in the right spaces and the right places with the right people to access them? Make sure that you're making connections with people, starting again from your nucleus, your friends, family, who knows who. Start to network. And I know network is such a scary word. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm not that person. I'm not an extrovert. And how do I network organically? You can also do it organically, but get in the places for you to meet the people that you want to either emulate in terms of profession or align yourself with. They may have opportunities. It could be as simple as attending an event such as this. There may be some people in the room that you should know that may help you to get to that next step, or just support your goals and your dreams. And don't always think that it has to be like the top person in charge that is going to open doors for you. It could be literally someone that does the same thing as you, that's trying to do the same thing as you. And how about we collaborate together and do this thing together? Like, people don't realize how creative we can be to get what we need done in the spaces, again, that we want to be in. So one, get close to the people by going to events like this, being a part of organizations that support your particular area of interest or goal. Of course, get further education. I always continuously pour knowledge into myself. If I don't know it, I'm going to learn it. Add to your toolkit, so to speak. So those are like the first things that come to my head off the bat.
Okay. This question says, selling yourself, the flow, speaking on yourself based on how your prior colleagues or employees saw you. Should this be put into the cover letter, resume, or the interview?
Yeah, I won't understand the question.
So the person is saying, if you're selling yourself, you're speaking on yourself based on how your prior colleagues or employees saw you. Should you put that type of information in your cover letter or your resume, or talk about that?
Yeah, why not? I think that, to me, I interpret that as, what's your value proposition? Like, what do you bring to the table? When people think about Debbie Douglas in recruiting, they think of the talent whisperer, the person that is a master connector, the person that's always going to make sure that you have the best talent in the room. I'm going to be screening and bringing you amazing talent. So you should sort of have like that elevator pitch together for yourself as well. And that could be included in your prevalent. I'm always going to mention that when I am interviewing, even for myself, if I'm looking for a new opportunity, I'm going to make sure that they know. Out of all the recruiters that you've interviewed, has anyone been introduced as a talent whisperer? That means I am a subject matter expert in this area. I'm a thought leader in this space. So even if you're junior, what is your superpower that you can say and articulate to others that will bring them along on your professional journey and say, oh, I need to have that person on my team?
Two questions. One is for me, and then the other one, because I think we have like 3 minutes left. Value proposition. Hit on that for a minute. What should that look like?
It's truly in the name. What value can you bring to whatever space that you're going into? And how can you articulate that in the first conversation? So if I am literally on an elevator with you and I say, hi, what is your name? You can say, I am such and such. People know me for this. They come to me for that. And this is what I bring. These are my little 2 or 3 bullet points of what I bring to an organization or to a space that I'm in. So you should always be prepared for that on the fly, even if it's just meeting someone organically and networking with someone in the industry. Now they're like, oh, I know this person. I should connect up with this person because they do that. And I know they're looking for someone that does that. So sometimes it could be as organic as a personal and or a professional connection when you have that ready.
Final question. Do you feel that age is playing a big part of the hiring process? Older candidates versus younger candidates?
I think it can, if you are not keeping up with the pace of what's going on. If it looks like your age is showing because you still have an AOL account or you don't have any social media and we can't find you anywhere. I'm sorry. Look. At the end of the day, you have, if you're not working for yourself and your own boss, you still have to keep up with what's going on because your customers are all different ages. Well, if they are, depending on what business you have. So you have to think about it like that. It's not necessarily, oh, they're being discriminatory against me because I'm older. I'm over 40 years old. So I'm in that range where it is a protected class of age discrimination. But if I show up as if I'm not relatable, I don't know what's going on. If I am supposed to be hiring social media managers and I don't even know what social media managers do or what they would be interested in or the types of content that they would be creating, that ages me. So not keeping up with what's going on, emerging trends, styles, or so forth, that is going to showcase your age. So I don't believe in, it's not to say it doesn't happen, but how can you mitigate? Because I can only do what's in my control. And what's in my control is I'm going to show up as someone that knows what's happening in current events, in the business that I'm interested in, the people that I would connect with, hire, interact with. That's important. So that I can only do what I can control, what's in my control.
Did you all enjoy this?
Yeah.